the Ukrainians are saying that the Chernobyl plant is now in the hands of the Russians.
Yes, I mean, that's the thing that people have been most fixated on in terms of Chernobyl. It's on the border, obviously, with Belarus to the north, but it's the shortest, most direct route to the capital. And we've had as well as what you've just been talking about, an update from the UK's Ministry of Defence, their Defence Intelligence Agency, which is producing very unusually information because they obviously want to try and cut through the disinformation that's out there. And they're saying that they believe that Russian forces are moving towards Kiev.
Do you know that Russia has the most nuclear weapons of any country on Earth? And Vladimir Putin says they're prepared to use them. And the shelling of Chernobyl has hit a nuclear waste repository, and radiation levels are already increasing in Ukraine. Are you ready for nuclear winter? The conflict with Russia and Ukraine may be spiraling the world toward a nuclear holocaust. 40 years nearly after the Cold War ended and the Soviet Union collapsed. We have the reports here, and it is shocking. The Soviet Union collapsed in the late 80s and early 90s, and the de-escalation of the nuclear tit-for-tat back and forth between the United States and the Soviet Empire started to wane. But that doesn't mean that the Soviets gave up their nuclear weapons. In fact, it was Bill Clinton who convinced the Ukrainian government to hand their nuclear weapons back to the Soviet Union. Vladimir Putin has been bragging recently upon his invasion of Ukraine about his nuclear arsenal, saying that effectively we have sophisticated nuclear weapons and we will strike America if you try and attack us. Listen.
As for the military sphere, modern Russia, even after the collapse of the USSR and the loss of a significant part of its potential, is today one of the most powerful nuclear powers in the world, and moreover has certain advantages in a number of the latest types of weapons. In this regard, no one should have any doubts that a direct attack on our country will lead to defeat and dire consequences for any potential aggressor.
For his part, Joe Biden didn't seem too concerned or knowledgeable about a nuclear attack on America.
This statement that he gave last night, the threat that he gave, the West will face consequences greater than any you have faced in history. Is he threatening a nuclear strike?
I have no idea what he's threatening. I know what he has done, number one. And number two, no one expected the sanctions to prevent anything from happening. This is going to take time, and we have to show resolve so he knows what's coming.
Yeah, that's pretty terrifying, and Joe Biden says he doesn't know, doesn't know. Is Russia going to nuke us? Asked the reporter, and Joe Biden says, build back better. Corn pop. It's pretty embarrassing and horrifying. What's also horrifying is that the fighting in Ukraine has hit a nuclear waste dump, increasing radiation levels in the area. Very scary. Over the last 24 hours, Russian forces have struck virtually all major cities in Ukraine, are conducting air operations throughout the country, and are doing combat operations on foot and on armored vehicle throughout the nation. Very scary stuff. The fighting and shelling reportedly hit a radioactive waste repository, and an increase in radiation levels have been reported. Well, this is in the area of Chernobyl. You, of course, know Chernobyl as the cheap and chintzy nuclear reactor that was shoddily put together and melted down after a series of incompetent moves by the scientists working there, and then was worsened by the incompetence of the Soviet leaders who wished to cover up the disaster for their own sake, for their own political hides. Chernobyl melted down and was the worst nuclear accident in history. Of course, the worst nuclear weapon drop was Hiroshima and Nagasaki in the 40s, but the worst nuclear waste accident, certainly Chernobyl. Russian forces are now firmly in control of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Fierce fighting with Ukrainian troops, they eventually surrendered, and Russians took control of Chernobyl. Russian troops have taken control of the site that is right now inside of a massive detention zone and dome. Our defenders are giving their lives so that the tragedy of 1986 will not be repeated. This is a declaration of war against the whole of Europe. Russia's seizure and control of eastern Ukraine regions comes hours after Vladimir Putin declared war. He called it a special military operation to demilitarize his western neighbor. Well, he may be militarizing in the worst possible way by striking the Chernobyl exclusionary zone. The Chernobyl nuclear power plant exclusionary zone is a massive area that you are no longer allowed to travel in because of its radiation. That's right. Radioactive contamination is the highest in this area and is not able to have human inhabitation. What happened? Soviet armed forces, soon after the 1986 disaster, took control of what is now known as the Chernobyl nuclear exclusion zone. This is a massive area of Ukraine. The exclusion zone covers an area approximately 2,600 kilometers, 1,000 square miles in Ukraine, immediately surrounding the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, where radioactive contamination is the highest and public access and inhabitation are restricted. Other areas of compulsory resettlement and voluntary relocation were not part of the exclusion zone and surrounding areas, but it was mandatory inside the exclusion zone. Well, that's very interesting. If you've seen footage of the exclusionary zone, it is otherworldly, crazy, trapped in time area. There is also a fantastic HBO series called Chernobyl that I watched, and I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. It's really, really cool. But, ladies and gentlemen, not cool is radiation leaking out of the exclusionary zone and out of the radiation dumps that have now been hit by munitions, presumably, by the Russian army and the fighting. You don't want nuclear war. You don't want nuclear winter. It would only take a few nukes to essentially change the world forever. That's what makes it so dangerous to fight with nuclear powers. Mutually assured destruction is what they call it. Guys, take a chill pill. Everybody, chill out. Thank you for watching. We are 100% independent news. Are you sick of being lied to? We certainly are. That's why we started this channel. But we can't do it without you. We can't keep going without your help. All we ask is that you click like and subscribe and share this video. It's free. And it keeps us going, it keeps us growing, and it keeps us getting the truth out there to break the rotted corporate media infrastructure that wants to lie to you every single day, wants to corrupt your narratives, your truth, your story, and your very society. So support us by clicking like, clicking subscribe, and thank you, Patriots.